Hello, Trisha here. So part 2 of our Dreamcatcher video here. This is where we left it off. In part 1 we were taking all of our pencil lines out and we got all of our pen work down. I'd used the rotring Tikky Graphic pens. So I've got myself some watercolours, so I've just squeezed some tubes out onto the little palette there and watered them down, and I'm just washing straight in with the various colours here. At the moment I'm starting with quite diluted colours, and you can see, you know, they're quite thin colours. I've put water down and I'm adding in to those washes. None of the pens moving. As I said, I use the drawing pens that have got a permanent ink in them. So if you haven't seen part 1, then just be aware that you do need to be working underneath initially with a permanent pen, a pigmented ink that won't bleed or move when you wet it. If you haven't got a pen like that, then you need to do part 2 first and then part 1. So do the watercolour wash first, let the wash dry, and then do all of your drawing over the top. You can use whatever colour way you want to here. I'm just taking those primary and secondary colours. If you didn't see the colour wheel video, then take a look at the colour wheel video, and in that one we just used cadmium yellow, cadmium red and ultramarine, I think it was, and we used those 3 colours to create our secondary colours, so oranges, purple and green. Oh, I nearly forgot what our secondary colours were there. Orange, purple and green. And so I'm just using the same colours again here, going round. I'm using a lot of water onto the paper, and as I said in part 1, this is a watercolour paper. It's about 280 to 300 grams, so it's quite a nice sturdy watercolour paper. It's got a ripple on it impressed into the paper, so for watercolour it's great. For drawing on, it's not as nice as the smooth paper, but for putting the watercolour down now, it's really good because all of those little ripples catch the paint and hold the paint, so stop it sloshing across the paper. But it's quite nice to work on. I don't really want to paint in, you see those little beads hanging down and things, I don't really want to have to sort of paint over those. Do you know what I mean, with a thick line or anything, but also at the same time I don't want to just leave it plain, so I'm going to put a lot of water down the bottom here, a lot of colour, well, a lot of wet paint, not masses of colour, and I'm going to let this run down the page, quite random now, and see if I can get this to run down. So I'm holding the paper up and I'm really just taking the brush, sucking up the paint off the palette and just squeezing it onto the paper. And I think I've really mixed up enough paint here, so I'm taking some clear water now and just adding that in. The brush that I've got is a squirrel brush, and you can see it's got a really sort of fat belly on there. It holds lots and lots of liquid. Oh, there we go, it's going down now. Little shake, come on, get moving. I don't want a big sort of wet line across the bottom. I want this to run down and like run off the bottom of the page. I don't really sort of want it to well along the bottom there. The colours that I've used straight from the tubes just aren't strong enough. I haven't squeezed out enough and I really haven't mixed them up strong enough. I've also got this set of watercolours from Kohinoor, which is the little pans, and they fit on top of each other, make a little stacking set. I love the colours in this. They're really, really zingy. There's two sets that they do. They do a kind of normal set of colours, let me say, and then they do this second set of colours. The second set of colours, you can see they're really sort of colours. A lot of places only sell the normal colour set, and you won't get these really pinky colours out. So I'm using a lot of the sort of quite pigmenty paint. Because they're in little pans, they're actually the little cakes, so they're quite dry, so you do have to have a lot of water on your brush. Put the water on your brush, give them a good scrub round and lift off the paint, but I'm trying not to then water that down so it gives me a nice colour. I am working back into this paint that I've already got, so it is quite wet on there still. So I'm trying to get it to run a little bit down where it's already run. Like that off the bottom there. Make a bit more of that paint up, don't waste it. It's gonna go in a minute. Yeah, there we go. Phew. Bit annoyed that one has run to the left a little bit. That's because I wasn't holding the paper properly. So because I wasn't holding it straight down, it started to go to the side. There we go. There we go. Catch those across the bottom. Can you see I got like a little well at the bottom there, so I'll have to put a mount around this and just clip off those bottom bits a little bit. But look at the difference of the colour there. So I'm going to come back in, I'm going to work over the colours that I've got and put some much bolder colours in. I'm not going to go too crazy, I don't think. No, I want them to sort of just enhance the colours that are there. But I need something a bit bolder against those black lines that I drew. You could, if you wanted to, you could wash all over with water, just put a really wet wash down and then just drop colours into this if you wanted to. I'm trying to be a little bit more precise and follow that pattern round. But if you haven't seen the hummingbird, the pen, watercolour and pen on with the hummingbird, then do take a look at that one. That's got a really wet background and then lots and lots of wet colour into it, sloshed into it. So I'm just using that paint there just to create that edge, and then I'm adding water in. So give myself a little wetter background, and then bring that pigment in and just let it spread across. These Koh-i-Noor palette, they've got some great colours in there. The only problem is, although they're sold as watercolours, they're much more of a pigmented ink dye type of colours. Once these hit your paper, that's it. You can't lift them out like watercolours, so you can't dab on with a tissue and lift those colours out. They're very staining colours. They've got more of a sort of inky feel to them in some ways like that, just that you can't move them once they're on the paper. So although they're sort of sold as a watercolour, I think I would say to you, if you're used to using watercolours, be really careful with these, because they don't really do exactly the same, and some of your techniques that you might want to do with lifting out or letting colours spread quite the same, then don't really work that well. If you want a really zingy colour, and especially if you want something to work along with something like the Derwent Inktense pencils, this is it. This is what I go for. Right, there we go. I think that's enough, isn't it? There we go. You can fiddle around for ages if you want to. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, visit my website for your art resources, follow me on social media, like this video and subscribe to my channel.